Monarch for this great event that they put on, Bíbán opening the doors for everyone. And just on behalf of Elite, part of the London Stock Exchange Group, thank you for taking us under the umbrella of the Tamil schemes. And hopefully I can tell you a little bit about our program, the history, and then hopefully how we're going to build that into the kingdom and how we're going to support companies here, connect them to capital, and grow. So yeah, as I said, just to get going, start off with a little bit of history about the program, hopefully not too boring. But essentially the program started in Milan back in 2012, 5 years ago now. Our head of primary markets at Borsa Italiana, a subsidiary of the London Stock Exchange Group, was meeting a lot of family businesses. They'd been going for some years, some of them are a little bit younger, but they didn't necessarily have any knowledge of capital markets, of good governance. Some of them didn't even have audited accounts or didn't know exactly how to go to that next stage of growth. So Luca saw this sort of as an opportunity to try and work with these companies, to try and help them go through this. As I said, sort of didn't have any governance, didn't know how to pass the company on to the next generation, hadn't considered their business plan fully. They'd been doing the same thing for quite a number of years, or they were quite new and they had hundreds of ideas all at once. Didn't know which was the best to do. And also just capital markets knowledge. Not necessarily, obviously he was working for a stock exchange, but not necessarily just that, but also looking at private equity, VC, different types of funding through bond and different ways of approaching that. So what did he do? The next step was to bring this on. First point, education. The network and capital. For education, quite simple. You see a lot of executive education courses. People need to start at the basics, need to understand, take time out of the day, the top level, the CEO, the CFO, get them together, think about their strategy. Think about how they can go start exporting worldwide, look at internationalization, have good governance, look at forming an executive board. And then that's all very well and good in practice, but how to do that with other people, learn from the other people that you're working with. Build a network of other companies, advisors that can support you on this, whether it be a law firm, some of the big four, other groups. Build this network out. And then the final stage, they've got this going, their company's going well, they have a great business plan and strategy. Now they can start to approach investors. They can start to look at how they work with these different groups to actually raise money, go to that next stage of growth. I'll go into this in more detail sort of a little later on and how that has worked for some of our companies. And then from 2012, this is where we found ourselves today. So we've grown to 600 companies. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be nearer 800, some of those coming from the kingdom, all with different issues in terms of the jurisdictions they work in, all internationalizing, selling all across the world. And also the other thing that we like to do is we don't look at just one sector. We like to have a CEO from a small fintech startup mixing with a big industrial producer as well as a food producing company, all in the same room. You'd be surprised how many of them actually have very similar problems and can learn off each other. So today, in terms of revenue, the majority are still under 50 million euros, which sounds quite large, but some are only at a few million. Some may even be pre-revenue. But then at the same time, they're working with some companies that go up to as far as $1 billion. But it's really good still to have all these various different people at different stages in their company, still all wanting to grow all together. This is the sort of community of different advisors and so on that we've brought together and all the success that we've seen with the program so far. But obviously coming from the stock exchange, we get asked a lot, is this all actually about trying to get companies to list on our markets? Is it just a pre-IPO program? And obviously we have seen that, but so I said we've had 601 companies, but out of those 601, only 10 have listed. So if that was our main goal, we're not doing a very good job. So what we are actually focusing on and what we've really created is more what we like to think of as a community. This is just a snapshot of some of the companies that we've worked with, and these are even just those in the UK, and you've got everything from Raspberry Pi, which you may have heard of, Gray's, a small food delivery company, all of these different various different companies, all a part of a community. And then what it really means in terms of numbers for the companies that we've worked with. So just in the first group of UK companies, the first 4 cohorts, employee growth has been over 9%. This compares to the middle market in the US, where they're looking at about 3.5%. Double-digit growth for all of the companies that are on the program at the moment. And they're some of the real bits of data that we rely on in terms of our KPIs and what we're really achieving, and some of the things we have to achieve in the kingdom as well. Another part of this, it's not just about IPOs, we're actually helping these companies raise capital. They're actually looking at ways to, whether it's through acquisitions of other companies they want to work with, different mergers, looking at debt issuances, equity, PE, whatever it might be. Overall total value, 4.6 billion euros raised over a period of 5 years with 600 companies. It sort of speaks for itself that we're doing a pretty good job and really teaching these companies how they can raise this capital. But to give a little bit more practical than that, it's great to sort of hear it from me, but actually look at one of our companies. So I2 Analytical came onto the program, only had offices in the UK at the time they came. They were doing a lot of testing of different chemicals and doing this for quite a few of the drugs companies and concentrating in the pharmaceuticals area. Came into the program, we helped them work out what are some of the areas that you could expand into. And this phrase here is the sort of key takeaway from their business plan and what they wanted to look at. So they joined in late 2015. They then realized that one of the large areas they could get into that we helped them look at was the agrochemical company area. They'd already been looking at pharmaceuticals. The next step was to look at that. So they purchased a small South African company in that area. We introduced them to the advisors that helped them with that purchase, took them through the steps, and it was thanks to the program and some of the other companies that they met on the program and this whole community that they were able to go through this. The data that's here unfortunately doesn't go up to date, but since this and the 2 years they've joined, they've actually gone up to this represents £6 million revenue mark. They're now up at 12, so since joining the program they've actually doubled their revenues. Again, great to hear this from me, but hopefully now this just gives you an idea of sort of some of the feedback we're getting from the companies we work with. This to give you a bit more detail about how we look at the companies. We don't necessarily say that they have to be hitting this level of revenue, but the real thing that we need is companies that, and the CEO and the CFO, who actually want to be in the room, actually want to learn from other executives in these companies. It's very much about sharing their experiences and really telling them. So they have to be really ambitious. They really want to have to be there. It's great that I only found out yesterday that Tamil means ambition, which was a little bit of a good coincidence for me. And then also, just the basics you'd expect. Good, strong growth, looking to get some funding of some description, perhaps don't know what that is when they first join, but that's part of the program. We're trying to guide them and help advise them and meet the right people to work that out. This gives you an idea of a typical program. This is for one of our international groups. Some of them just take place in the UK, some we have an agreement in Morocco where we're running this. They might have slightly different modules. This gives an idea of the process they go through. Starting off with strategy. Have they actually come out of their day-to-day? Have they actually sat down and thought about where they're going as a business? How do they then get their junior managers on board with this? They might be doing everything day-to-day. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you have any agreement in Saudi Arabia for this program?
Oh, sorry, yeah, that'll be the next part of my presentation. So yeah, this reason I'm standing here is not just to tell you how great I am and then how great the program is, but we're hoping to really emulate this here in Saudi Arabia with the support of the SME Authority and a lot of the other advisory community already on board, and hoping to launch later this year, hopefully November this year. I'm very excited about it. This is my first trip to the kingdom, and I can feel the buzz just coming to this event. It's been very exciting. There's a lot of people here who want to be involved in something like this, and we're really hoping that we can help. So this, yeah, as I say, this is the structure that we go through. Change it every year pretty much. We are getting feedback from the companies we work with. When we're here, we don't want to tell everybody how to do. We tailor it to the market we're in. We work with the local partners to actually build the content, whether it be a local business school, whether it be companies that have listed themselves. They've actually have that success story. They come and add content as well as the local advisory community. Yep. So depending on the program, we try and do as much of it as possible over the year. Try and get at least 8 situations over a year where they're face to face. But then also we realise that some of that they need to take away, do online if they're coming from different parts. So we have an online platform where people can do some of the training, but also a big part of it is actually they can talk to the other companies from around the world that are already part of the program. If they are looking at distributing in another country, they can drop them a message through that. They can see straight away the profile of this company. They're doing distribution in this field. They have offices in these countries. They practice it. They're good at these different things. Their revenue levels even, so they can sort of see all of these different aspects. I'm a big advocate of face-to-face. If I'm completely honest, I think that's where the real value add is. It's sitting down with another CEO, another CFO, people who want to be there. Expositions like this are great examples of that. I don't think things would happen without the face-to-face. The online, great for some practical part, a little bit of theory here and there, but really it's about the face-to-face bits for me. Couldn't agree more, yeah. I think definitely in the Kingdom we'd want to do the majority of it face-to-face, just with some sort of takeaways and able to contact the other companies perhaps. Another next step for us is, the map earlier only really showed Europe. We have agreements coming into place in the rest of Africa, out in East Asia, and we're looking at, we really want to build this international community of ambitious companies all working together. And although that's great to have them online together, we will look at doing international events where we're bringing in as many of the companies as we can, perhaps focus it on subject areas at first and have a whole elite day of ambitious companies meeting, selling what they do, telling each other their own stories, and obviously hopefully have investors in the room as well to try and raise some money. Again, I think I've given a little bit too much of me for now, but you know, I've seen a lot of these programs, but I think hearing some of the companies themselves speak about their experience is what really shows you how much that face-to-face time, how much going through this can really help. So I'm going to leave it to one of my colleagues and one of the companies that we work with called The Hub. Ooh. Or perhaps not. Yeah, I think I know this one well enough. Unfortunately, the video is not working. Essentially, Hub are a video editing company. And a lot of this was them talking about their own experiences of why they wanted to join the elite community. For them, it was about sort of taking time out of their day-to-day, coming into the classroom, meeting other investors, as well as they've been able to, so they do a lot of marketing videos for other companies. So for a lot of the more traditional companies that were in the same cohort as them, they've now been able to sell their services to them. And that was a big sort of plus. But also, they were at a stage where I think they started out as a team of 5. This is the CEO and the CFO who are talking. They've now grown to over I think it's 46 of them now, they say in the video. And that's in the space of 18 months. So, you know, a real rapid growth in terms of employment, a lot more work coming in. And part of that, they actually they worked on the video editing for a big Malaysian TV show. It was nowhere they'd considered working before, and it was one of the pop star Malaysian video ones, and they had done some of the editing, and there was a little clip of that in there. But and they also did one for actually for entrepreneurs, which again was really relevant and why I'd hoped to share it with you. But yeah, they have been a real success story so far. They just graduated from the program 2 weeks ago. So yeah, as I said, so we've had, since 2012, there's 600 companies, about 100 of them still to graduate. But of the 500 graduates, there's an alumni program. So a lot of the companies, they might go through the process. We'll help them with one particular aspect that they're really struggling on. We do a sort of 6-month checkup after we've worked with them, just to see have they actually been able to achieve this. If not, why not? Is there anybody else that we could introduce them to? Is there anybody else that might be able to help with their particular problems? And then even after the 6-month checkup, any of these investment deals, as I'm sure some of you are aware, they take a lot longer than a 1-year program or a 2-year program. And there might be the opportunity to raise further money. There might be younger. One of our 2013 companies has actually acquired 2 of the companies that joined the program later on, which was quite a nice sort of story for us. But yeah, so there's little things that happen like that quite regularly, just through the different interactions that they have. So the hub actually haven't got any funding yet, but the main thing that they've done has been the new contracts, and it's been the internationalization, looking at not just their traditional market of doing marketing videos for smaller companies, but also going into, they've helped a lot of technopreneur, entrepreneur video things. They started going into some of the music and looking at different areas that they could work in. Shame that would have. And then now, I guess, time to talk about, again, why I'm here and what we're planning. So back in July this year, we signed an agreement with the SME Authority to try and set this program up here, but really tailor it to the local market. As I said before, looking at hopefully November this year to launch, but it's a long-term plan. As I've said, these companies, it takes a long time to realize some of this growth to actually achieve what they're hoping to. So we hope the agreement's for 5 years at first, but it will carry on into the future. And then this big thing that I keep on saying is about the tailoring and why we're working with the SME Authority, other local teams to try and put this together. And obviously for us, and a lot of why this event is going on, a large part of this is we're trying to help meet some of the Vision 2030 goals and really be an integral part of that. So the situation at the moment, I think a lot of these stats were given yesterday, much better than I will by Governor Gassan, who signed the agreement. But so yeah, the contribution to GDP is around 33%. I think that might be a little bit high, but it's 25% of the labour force. And then within the MENA region, home to almost 20% of the total SMEs. So we obviously see the Kingdom as a real hub for this. There's a large number of SMEs, not contributing to GDP as much as we would hope, and going forward how much we hope we can add to that. But there's also a number of SMEs that really want to grow and can be a large part of this, and the Kingdom can really serve as the hub for this. Then if you look at sort of the statistics across all the companies we've worked with, 21.3% in terms of employment growth. So we're hoping that we can diminish the unemployment in the country and really help on that side, and really support companies do that properly through good governance and really working out how to work with their employees through looking at different programs that they can offer their employees themselves and so on. And then obviously revenue growth, very important, and hopefully that will help to contribute to GDP. And then also another part of the Vision 2030, increasing women's participation in the workforce. That's something that we've has been a big part of our program in the UK, and we have a scholarship for women entrepreneurs and things like that as well. Just to talk about some of the ways that we're considering tailoring the program. Obviously working with the local business schools, but also in terms of when we're looking at different ways for raising money, we need all of this to be Sharia compliant. We need to consider Islamic finance as a large part of this. We work with we're looking at working with other Middle Eastern countries who already have a presence in Morocco, and these are important modules to our Moroccan companies. And also further down the line, when we're looking at raising capital, making sure that we can do this in a way that it is compliant with Sharia. One obviously good thing about the partner we've chosen to work with in the SME Authority, we know a lot of the companies within the region, a lot of the companies in the country that are keen to be involved, and we're going through the process of looking at those that might be good candidates and obviously meeting those that want to come and see us today. And then obviously I've mentioned it already, but the advisory community. It's great that we have all these international investors and institutions, but we also need the SME banks within Saudi Arabia, the advisory community within Saudi Arabia, and they're already interested in being part of it and have offered to provide content and really make it a strong program within the kingdom. And then, don't know, this is another video. I don't know if we'll have any better luck with this one, this is just more a general sort of overview of everything that we've achieved in Europe so far, and how hopefully we're going to be able to emulate that success in the Kingdom, if we're lucky. But while that's sort of, potentially. I'll just let that try and load a little bit, but just if there are any questions at the moment at all. Not looking like it.
It's gonna work.
Oh, yeah? A little bit slow.
So the question is, how can the SMEs connect with capital very fast?
Very fast. From my point of view, personal experience, it's a lot about having your own story in check already. And when I say story, I mean your equity story. Obviously, you need good governance, you need to meet all of the due diligence requirements, you need to have your accounts in order, you need a strong executive board, you need a CEO who has the vision and everything, but also has a management team that he can trust, a CFO that he knows that he can work with. This is, yeah, just the video on the European program so far. Yeah. Oh, sorry. That's fine. I mean, that just gives you a taster, but yeah, I think when I was sort of mentioning your equity story, I think you've got to be able to sort of say where you've come from, even if you've fallen down at some point, everything might not have gone your way, but how you've been able to turn that around, why you think you're able to take that to the next stage of growth, and why you need the capital. What are you actually going to do with it? What is your business plan? What's your strategy? Do you have strong IP underpinning all of this? It depends a lot on the field you're working in, but at the same time, if you're able to tell that story and it makes sense, and somebody who doesn't understand your field or isn't knowledgeable about the widget that you make, if you can really explain to it why you're passionate about it, why you think your company needs that money and really can grow, of course that needs the market research to understand exactly where you're going, where you're coming from, but to be able to tell that convincingly and to be able to really pitch that idea to people, I think that's a large part of really gaining capital quickly.
What's your advice for the early stage project? To go with VC, venture capital, or angel investment? Which is better?
I think that depends a lot on your own personal circumstances and again the industry. If you think that angel investor is the right person for you, you know that you've got a good deal with them, you know that they are the sort of person that can mentor you through. They have experience in that industry, they have connections within that industry. If you think they're the right ones for that, I think that can be a really beneficial thing because often they'll take a lower stake or they'll be much more involved, whichever way you want it to go. VC, similarly, if they have a strong background somewhere, maybe that could be the right way to go. Equally, if you need someone that's a bit more of a substantial name and you need that VC partner that people hear of and it's more about exposure for you, that could be an argument for the VCs being a little bit more relevant. That would be my 30-second take. Anything? Yeah.
Presentation, company?
Sorry.
You offer consultation for.
So it's not so much consultation, it's this program that we're bringing companies onto, and it will be run by the SME Authority. Sorry. So sorry, the question was just whether we're doing it as a consulting project. And it's not so much that, it's very much about this structured program and getting these companies that we think have the ambition and are looking to raise capital and so on, all in the classroom to go through that process together. Equally, we understand that their problems might not be the same and their issues and things they have to change won't be. So we also offer that sort of that checkup period that I mentioned. So they're coming in, they're seeing where they think their weaknesses are, they're meeting some of the advisors that might be able to help them with that, and then also then looking in the future, how can they assess that and change that.
How you get money from all of these things? Like get shares from these companies or?
No, so yes, the program is a charge program in the UK, and then in some countries we have local development banks that are helping with that. With the SME Authority, we're still deciding on the best payment structure, but there's two reasons for that. Obviously, it's not free, but then that's not the main issue for us. And then the other reason just being, we find that if the companies pay and have some sort of skin in the game, as it were, that they're more committed to coming and make sure that they really take the most out of it and are really the companies that want to be there.
Done?
I think
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.